you are such a cliche. You're the alcoholic liquor store owner that needs to go to rehab. Like, what the hell? But that was who I was. So the PCT, or the Pacific Crest Trail, it's a 2,600-mile trail from the border of Mexico to the border of Canada. And my goal was to set out to hike that. So I had a fascination with doing it for about a year while I was still drinking. And I don't know if it was like about overcoming a fear, but a large part of it was because I knew I felt like I had to escape my current life. And I don't think I pinned it on the fact that drinking was causing all my problems. I thought that my drinking was like a result of my problems. I thought I was drinking to manage my stress or whatever issues I had going on, but it was obviously it was the drinking that was causing all of that. Yeah, so I just felt like I had to get away. And if I could get away from my problems, then I wouldn't need the drinking. But I realized now that it was the drinking that had to be addressed, not the problems. Problems were caused by the drinking.
I told people that I wanted to just buy a van and live in my van. And this is pre-van life. So like it like wasn't like readily available online. Like I didn't even know how I was gonna do it. I just like figured I'd have a mattress on the floor and I would basically just be homeless. But I wanted to do that then. And people then were like my dad was like, I don't know about that. And friends like, how are you gonna shower and all that stuff. It's like, I don't know, but I want to do this. And now I'm finally doing it. It's cool to see that like this isn't out of nowhere. It's like this has been like manifesting itself over the last 15 years.
Like all throughout like this whole fascination with the trail, like most of it happened while I was drinking alone at home. So I'd sit out there just drinking vodka and I would just be looking up like gear and watching videos on YouTube about people that had hiked the trail. And so that was like, I thought that was my escape and that was my way out. And then with the liquor store and the bar stuff and all the work that I was doing with alcohol around me all the time, things just kept spiraling like quicker and quicker out of control. And Cassandra, my girlfriend, she was noticing, and she was obviously like, I mean, she obviously saw the potential in me, and she saw me just like wasting away. Cassandra started reaching out to my father and telling him that I was just drinking constantly, blacking out, etc. And then one day, like, my dad and I were supposed to hang out. He was supposed to come up and visit, and he came up a day early, and I was sitting out on the patio in the middle of the afternoon, and I'd already probably had 6+ vodkas, and so he saw me in my state where I was already pretty drunk. It was the middle of the afternoon. I'm just sitting at home alone, and he just walked up, and he didn't like judge me or anything. He just said, "Do you need to go somewhere?" And I was just like, "Yes." And it was just like, from that point, we just like, he didn't judge me. He like knew that it was like out of my control. It was that I needed help, and so we just started looking for rehabs. And I was just I was Googling the best rehabs in the world to see what came up, and what ended up being both cost effective and seemed appropriate for me was in Thailand. The rehab facility in Thailand, it's called Dara. It was like a third of the price of any rehab in the United States, and it had like everything you could dream of. It's like I had my own yoga teacher, I had my own therapist, we had 3 meals a day, buffet style, ice cream once a week, like a swimming pool that we could hang out at. We had all these classes teaching us about addiction. Once the alcohol was out of my life, I was like, I can have control over this. I don't have to drink it. That's my control. So I'm not powerless. I am powerful. I'm as powerful as it could be. That's over there. It will never enter here. Yeah.
I guess we'll start with the alcoholism. Like, are there any things that you like remember that were significant to you? Whether it was like struggles or conversation or something I said to you about it, or our relationship when I was drinking, or like my attitude towards it, or anything like that? Do any of those kind of things spark any thoughts about what it was like?
I think that I also kind of had a little bit of an ignorance to what alcoholism was, but I always saw you sitting outside at Spring Street when I was walking to go to work or to yoga, and you were always there. And I lived in LA for a year, but we didn't really hang out much. I think that would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember feeling bad about that after I was getting sober, because I was like, she lived like 2 blocks away from me and we never hung out.
Yeah.
So I just always was drinking. Like, sad.
But I didn't take anything personally. You know, like I wasn't like, oh, Ryan. I never felt bad for myself about it.
Yeah.
I just noticed he's always at the bar.
Right.
I think that would be the main thing with LA and your drinking, because that's when I was the most.
Like the closest to me?
Yeah.
Like proximity, like
Yeah.
you were able to like see me a lot?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was most exposed to that part of your behavior.
Yeah.
Because when you lived in San Diego, I was still in high school and I lived with Dad. I didn't go downtown. I didn't think we had a bad relationship. I mean, every time I was with you, we always got along just fine.
Right.
You know, you were never mean to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was something that I thought about. And I was always kind of bummed about it. Like, it's all, like, you know, like everything. It's like, well, that's just how it was. But yeah, I was always kind of like, huh. That said a lot. Where it was like, oh, alcohol takes precedence over family. Kind of scary.
You're just like more absent, right, in your personal life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was also afraid to like have you guys find out or like really know. And I also didn't want to burden you. You know? Like I didn't want to bother you with it or have it like affect you. Just kind of like, if I don't talk to him, it doesn't have to
They won't
bother.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of not related to you leaving, but I'd say something that stood out for me was when you did get arrested in downtown LA, and my phone kept ringing in the middle of the night and I didn't know who it was. I just thought it was like it was collect call or
It was like a Texas number.
yeah, it was showing up as a Texas number.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell? And then finally, I think at around 6 a.m., I finally answered it. And it was, you know, the automated voice message that it was the downtown sheriff's department. And then it connected me to you because you were calling me. But I remember when I picked you up that morning and you got in the car and you just started crying. So I knew you were sad.
Yeah.
You know? I think that was a major thing that stood out.
Yeah, I remember that. Makes me like almost cry right now. Yeah, I think it was like those little moments that like I was so, I had no choice but to like confront it, and like the secret was out, that it was just like, I was just waiting for that time to finally just be like, I surrender, help me please.
I feel like you were a little bit in denial, but mainly probably because you didn't want to be a burden. You know, like you knew you should go, but it was a struggle in the beginning, right? To get you to where you're like, okay,
oh yeah,
I'm going to let go of control and just go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was like 2 years or more before I finally went, you know? So I had to, like, kept reliving that kind of stuff, like, every day.
Yeah.
Which, not saying it's, like, I feel sorry for myself, but it's, like, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. Like, if you were like that, I'd be like, God, it's so sad. But like for me, it's like, whatever. I was doing it to myself. I take responsibility for it, but having that perspective, hearing you say it, it's like, God, that sounds so sad.
It was.
Yeah. Like it's pretty intense.
And then I think another situation, it was a happy one. It was Christmas Eve, and you were leaving on New Year's Eve to get on your flight to Thailand.
Yep.
And we were doing karaoke, and I'm blanking on the song now.
Runaway Train.
Runaway Train.
Yep.
And we were singing it together, and like every word of it reminded me of you. And I'm pretty sure we both started crying singing karaoke, but it was like a happy, sad moment because you were like turning around, like you were about to change your life into a better direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I had to stop because it was like, wow, this is exactly how I felt all this time. And it was happy because it was like, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
We were like cry laughing.
Right.
Because we're just like, why are we crying?
Yeah.
But,
then I did the Shania Twain and took off my shirt in front of everyone. Showed my back tattoo for the first time.
Yeah. Just let it all go.
Yeah.
Like, no more judgment, I'm moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. This is going to be with me, guys.
Yeah.
Not proud of it, but it's there. Does it matter if it's pointing at me or if it's just...
So I had my family compile all the pictures and video footage that they had from the accident and recovery and all that and send it over to me. So I have the 2 files from my dad and my sister, and so I'm gonna go through all this stuff for the first time. I mean, since it happened, so that this should be kind of interesting. Oh, this is a wild one. This was right before I went to rehab. I had to send them a picture with my ID, I guess. Or it was for my passport or something. But I kind of have a black eyes, because I had just gotten beat up by the security guard. And I'm hung over and half drunk here. It's just crazy. I just look like I'm dying. It's kind of weird to see that. When I knew I was going to rehab, like I had such a hard time. Like I was just like, God, I'm that loser that goes to rehab. This is crazy. And it wasn't until later when I was at rehab, but this is kind of funny. I realized that I was like, you are such a cliche. You're the alcoholic liquor store owner that needs to go to rehab. Like, what the hell? But that was who I was. And like, it was hard for me to like come to terms with it. And I didn't then, but I knew it was going to be a struggle to just be like, all right, you're the guy that goes to rehab. That's it. That's all there is to it. You're pathetic, which is not the case, but that's what it felt like at the time. That's just like after I got out of rehab, I went to all these waterfalls in Thailand. Look, a lot healthier there than I did when I was about to go in. But I knew the whole time that I still wanted to do the trail. And so when I was... It's like a pebble, but it sounds like a bear. I saw it. It's always so loud. So when I went to rehab, I knew I still wanted to do the trail. Like, that was huge for me. Like, I had to do it. And it was going to work out perfectly because it was January 1st was when I was going to rehab. And then I was thinking that I would leave for the trail in April. And so while I was at rehab the whole time, I was still thinking about the trail. And then I finally decided, like, I got to go. And I booked my departure day because you have to schedule your departure day. And so part of the process was that I was going to go on the trail. But like, people were telling me not to. Like, even my therapist, who I loved so much, he told me that I shouldn't because he thought that was me running away from the problem and not being able to like implement what I learned at rehab. He thought I should go home and try to like create a structure for myself, which I understood, but it was so important for me to do that I figured that was that was just it. That was what I had to do. I felt it. Like hiking the trail shifted from being like my escape to being like my, my recovery and my, kind of reshaping myself into who I wanted to be. After all of that time just spent just being like, I never even felt like myself. I like didn't even exist. It was just that the trail was now, it wasn't going to be an escape from non-existence. It was going to be like a confrontation with who I really was and who I really wanted to become.
Oh, he included this thing. This is the picture he found. This was, that's my mom, my dad, and that's me, and that's my brother. And then they're holding a picture of my sister, who, I guess she was at home, or like, I don't know, not with us, but she was born at that time. Oh, I was short, super short shorts. Yeah, that's before I left for the trail. I got that thick dad bod going, little barrel body.
It's kind of funny, and it's kind of like almost, it seems tacky when you're on the outside, but when people are hiking the trail, they all get trail names. And not all of them, but most people get a trail name, and it's usually given by the people that you're around, your friends or your, quote, trail family. And so I met my trail family, at least one of them, Jared. I met him on my second day on trail, and we hiked together for the most part the rest of the time. But I knew that people were going to try to give me the name Samson because of the long hair, and I didn't want that, just because I wanted something like with more substance, like something that really was part of my personality. And he tried to say Samson, and I was resistant. And then we were in Julian at this pie shop, and he looked up the story of Samson, like the Samson and Delilah story. And he looked it up, and he was like, it's Samson. And I don't remember if I read it or if he told me, but either way, at that point, I found out that for Samson to maintain his superpowers, not only could he not cut his hair, but he also wasn't allowed to consume alcohol. So as soon as I found that that was part of the story, I was like, that's it. I'm okay. I'll be Samson. Like, he wanted me to be Samson, and it just was, it had to be something more, and that was the something more, because that was everything at that point in my life. Like, it was everything. If I consumed alcohol, I would lose any power that I had. I by no means did I have superpowers, but that would strip me of everything again. And I knew that. So that was really cool. That was really cool. I'm super happy. I almost like, it's like when I hear people call me Samson, I feel more of a connection with Samson than I do with Ryan. Ryan's just this like, whatever, my birth name, which is, it has its importance, but Samson is like, that guy was climbing mountains and fighting his addiction. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is.
We almost ran out of water. I should open that. Yeah. Oh. We climbed Mount San Jacinto, and up top we're running really low on water and decided to camp in the shelter up there. So we wandered around a little while. The sun's hiding. It's like 44 degrees out, and we found ourselves a little tiny snowmelt creek. We're really doing it.
That's pretty funny.
Jared kept having his friends send him these little vials of rare whiskey. And so he had this rare whiskey. It's called Pappy Van Winkle 23 year. So it's aged 23 years. This is like a highly sought after American whiskey. Like, having worked in a liquor store, you can't even get it owning the liquor store unless you sell so much of a certain product. And so he busts out the little bit of whiskey and a cigar, and they start passing around. I was totally cool with them drinking. Like, it didn't bother me at all. So much so that as they were passing it around, I was like, let me see that thing. And he hands me the little vial of whiskey, just a little thing. And I smelled it, and it smelled good, but I didn't want it. I didn't even want it. And I realized at that point, like I think you've made progress, because I drank in the past for like to escape. I never really drank to celebrate. And then this like was the most beautiful place with these people I loved, this super rare whiskey that was shipped halfway across the country to get to us. Like once in a lifetime experience. If there was any time to drink, that would be it. Or that, and maybe even that would have been the time where I could have, which I thought this a lot and I've heard other people say it, where I could have changed my relationship with alcohol, which is just a complete crock. You can't change it. The only change is you have to break up. It's the only way I could change a relationship, I should say. But yeah, at that moment I knew, like, I'm over this stuff. I'm good. I'm strong. I'm gonna make it. And it felt so good that, and like they all, like, I think they all knew it too. Because I think Jared was a little timid to even hand me the little vial. Like, what's he about? Is he about to drink? But yeah, that was just a super cool moment. Like that, not drinking in Crater Lake was one of those moments where I saw my potential. And I knew I was stronger than I had ever known. I went to an AA meeting when I was back in Los Angeles, and I said at the meeting, someone was talking about they don't know what to do with their identity. They used to identify as like the party animal and this and that. And I agreed with them. But I had just come off the trail and I had all these experiences with people sharing with me. And I realized, like, to identify as like a recovering alcoholic, and whatever you want to classify it as, whatever you want to call it, but to identify as that is such a badass thing to identify as. Like, I wanted to die every single day. Like, I did not want to live anymore. And I don't know how close I was to that edge, but I was so deep in the darkness that there was only one little step that I would have to take and just vanish. And I came back from that. And everyone that gives up their addiction and their drinking, you see the darkest of the darkness and come back from that. If you do that, like, that's something to be proud of. That is, like, it is such a beautiful thing, and it's so heavy and so intense. You should be proud to say, yeah, I saw death and I looked it right in its face and I decided, no, I'm going to the light, baby. I'm out of here. It's something really to be proud of. And it was that name and those experiences with different people that were out there struggling with their own demons that taught me that like, I should be proud of all of this. Like, I'm a badass dude. I deserve to be happy.